But one of the most common questions is, what do we do with his books now?
Yeah.
I remember I was listening to Mike Winger's kind of reaction, and I was just listening to it, but it looked like he picked up his books and threw them away just right as he was streaming his reaction to the event.
Yeah.
So what do you think we do with Ravi's books? Because he published a lot, and there's a lot there.
Yeah, we hear people saying things like, some of my sweet friends are like, "Oh yeah, I kind of always thought Ravi wasn't that good anyway." Sure, maybe for that. I loved Ravi's books. I loved I was for a couple of years I was looking for a good book to give my father-in-law on New Age spirituality, because my father-in-law is immersed in it and not a Christian at all. And the best book I found finally, I thought, why didn't I pick up Ravi's book before? Why Jesus? An extraordinary book. Has Christianity failed you? Incredible. Sense and sensuality. Such a beautiful book about lust and sin, and so yeah, I found them profoundly helpful. I was trying to read an enormous amount last year, partly because I felt like I had to catch up to my colleagues who were brilliant at RZM, and so I was just burning my way through books, and I decided I want to write someday. I want to write like Ravi, and so I started reading a book of Ravi's a week, among other books I was reading too. But I literally if you look at my book list from last year, it's just Ravi until September 29.
Yeah.
What do you do with his books? The books themselves have so much goodness. I honestly, I have removed them from my bookshelves. You're not going to see any of them here, because as much as I think they can be helpful, I want survivors of sexual abuse, whether it's survivors who were harmed by Ravi or anybody, to come into any church, walk past any church library, go into any Christian bookstore, or come into my home, and not have to wonder, are they going to see a sexual predator's name emblazoned on these books? As much as it's a loss on the one hand to have to throw away these books with a lot of helpful stuff, more important is for people who've been crushed through sexual abuse to be able to come into a bookstore and find a book for Nancy Guthrie's incredible book on suffering, or whatever, Wade Mullen's book on abuse. I want them to be able to come in and not have to think. So as we think through, people say oh, is that cancel culture and all this kind of stuff? Rachel Den Hollander said to Sam Albury and I, we reached out to her for advice when this was first unfolding. We said, educate us on how we can be helpful to victims. And she said, guys, this was really important. She said, guys, almost everyone thinks that the most traumatic and soul-crushing, life-changing aspect of abuse is the moment that abuse occurs. She said, that's not true for most survivors. She said, for most survivors of abuse, it's when they disclose to somebody and how they were responded to. That can be the most crucial moment as to if they're going to be able to find healing and wholeness and overcome and restoration, or if this will just crush them in a way that is so hard to recover from. And she said that this RZAM represents Christian worldview to the world and to Christians around the world. And the way that we are responding to his situation, to these women's situation, is telling the world, telling survivors of abuse, how do Christians respond to disclosure? And therefore, I want to be very careful that we're circling the wagons around survivors and not around our faith speakers or authors. And so for that reason, my wife and I thought fit to remove all of his books from our shelves and to throw them. I think I didn't even put them in the recycling, to be honest. I think we threw them in our apartment garbage chute.